So for the longest time, I've always wondered why it feels like there's two different versions of me that could show up. So on the one hand, I can be very confident, quite outgoing. I don't have to think too hard about what to say next. I'm unfiltered. I'm pretty funny. And then the next day I can be really shy and introverted, to overthink every single word that comes out of my mouth, to talk myself out of like making this joke or saying this thing because I'm telling myself that it's dumb and that everyone will hate me if I say this. And to just kind of act like the polar opposite of the version from the day before. So I've been looking into this idea and I feel like I understand it a little bit better, like why this occurs. And a funny example is when I was younger, when I was in school, me and my friend group, we'd hop on Discord on Friday nights, we'd play some games, we'd play like Rainbow Six Siege, and we just have a great time. And when I was around my friends just having fun, despite the fact that I was just this super introverted, quiet kid in school, that was my reputation. When I was on like party chat with my friends, I'd be so loud, I'd be like screaming down the mic, I'd be making crazy jokes, just feeling like really like, this is how I want to be, this is how I want to act. Just feeling like natural and authentic. But then some other guy would join the party who's not in my friend group. Like you introduce one different person into that group and suddenly it's back to being quiet, back to being reserved and like second guessing myself. So basically, the good part of this is that despite the fact that we human beings, we actually have like, we don't just have one personality, we have like lots of different personalities, but that ideal version that we want to be, I like to think that that is our true personality, like that's who we really are. That person, that version of me, which is like very relaxed and is naturally confident and doesn't overthink what he says, that is the true version of me. It's just there's certain situations in which that gets blocked. It's like radio static, like static interference, stopping us from unlocking that natural charisma and personality that we do possess. It just kind of gets buried deep inside us. So basically what stops us from acting like that 24/7 is that personality will only come out in situations where our nervous system feels safe. It's all about safety. So basically, there's this, basically the nervous system is responsible for like perceiving threats in our environment. Like, am I in danger in this specific situation? Is there anything at risk of causing me harm? That goes back to like caveman times or whatever, when we could have actually been like hunted by like fucking saber-tooths or whatever. It's like survival response. But basically, because we're not really at much risk of like physical danger in our environment, nowadays what the nervous system mainly applies to is like emotional experiences. So the danger in our environment comes from emotional pain, situations where we're made to feel like really terrible, like ashamed, embarrassed, feelings of rejection, just the worst things that we can experience on an emotional level. That is what our nervous system is trying to protect us from. So when our nervous system is all fired up, when our nervous system is perceiving that kind of danger in our environment, I'll talk about what causes that danger. That's when we revert back to this like more unnatural personality, this like version of our personality which is more focused on like survival and kind of going under the radar. So for me, that kind of looks like I'm 9 times out of 10, I'll just get like really quiet, like really reserved. I'll start overthinking like whether it's worth saying this right now. Should I just not say this at all? Just like massively filtering my personality and the things I say. I can become very agreeable or like apologetic or stuff like that. And I'll just become like really, really like conscious of myself and like how I'm looking, how I'm coming across. So basically what this comes down to is, let's say there's a situation where we're meeting someone new for the first time, or we're meeting a group of new people. We can't realistically say how that's going to go because we can't predict the future. You know, these people, they might not be nice, but equally they might be amazing people. You know, we might end up making friends for life with one of them. We don't know. But we'll still enter this like mode of threat protection. This experiences like this will still fire up your nervous system. And it's because our nervous system stores these memories from the past of when we were made to feel like deep emotional pain. Like for me, I had like a lot of rejection experienced in school. Like people used to make fun of me. I went through this long period of just having like no friends and constantly just getting like rejected by different groups in school. And then when I eventually like made friends with a group, they just kind of like bullied me and mocked me. So over time, I learnt that if I act in a certain way, this is just going to lead to pain. Like my natural personality, like, you know, being expressive, being loud, making jokes, I'm just going to get bullied for that. So I reverted to this like protective strategy of either being really quiet or being like really submissive, like really apologetic, trying to keep everyone on my side, trying to avoid confrontation at all costs. So there was no risk of me getting like rejected or kicked out of the group again. So in certain situations where we're like meeting new people, for instance, the reason we act like this, the reason we can't unlock our natural charismatic personality is because we're afraid of the past, basically. These situations, they're bringing up feelings from the past, that like risk associated with the past, like being rejected. Am I going to get embarrassed by these new people? Because we don't know them yet, we can't feel that safe around them. It's really complicated, and it might not make 100% sense, but just know that like your nervous system, it works faster than your brain. So you'll start feeling these sensations in your body before your brain even has a chance to register whether like this is worth me getting anxious about, or is there any real danger. So basically, yeah, just understand that there's these two separate versions of your personality. The natural one, you unlock that in environments where you feel safe, around your friends, around people you trust, where you know there's no fear of judgment, versus this almost like protective mode. That's when you start to like act more unnatural because you're almost like optimizing for your own safety and survival, either trying to go under the radar or just like avoid getting rejected. So basically, how I've learned to start healing from this, and since I've known about this, I've managed to just apply like my natural personality a lot more consistently. And the things that used to trouble me, just going really quiet all of a sudden, or, you know, being afraid to say certain things, it still affects me to some extent, but I feel like I'm just more that like natural version of myself. So basically the skill that we need to develop, or maybe like just the mindset that we need to have, is we need to stop treating all of these conversations, social situations, as like a life or death experience, because that's how it feels right now. When we're in this protective mode, our body literally thinks that we're like about to die. Like this is like a life or death situation. I could lose my life here, or I could be like extremely humiliated. So you're applying those same stakes to like every social situation, and it's just impossible to act natural. Versus when we're with our friends, you know, we're relaxed, our mind is at ease, we're not feeling anxiety, there's no like mental blockage there, so we can just act natural. So for me, how I learned to stop taking like all of this so seriously is, instead of focusing on like trying to perform for other people or like, you know, trying to get them to like me, as basic as it sounds, I'm focusing much more now on just like having fun, like my own enjoyment over the enjoyment of other people's. I haven't really heard a lot of people talking about this, but my main outlook on not just conversations, but life is like, this all exists for my entertainment. Like, what's the point of having a social interaction if it's not about like having as much fun as possible? In most situations, that is what I'm trying to do. So think of it in terms of like, how would I act in this situation if I were like surrounded by my best friends? You know, who would I be? What would I be doing? For me, that means like being kind of unfiltered, not being offensive, but like not being afraid to like say things and do things and make jokes that maybe I wouldn't usually around other people. But the point is like, that's authentic to me. That's who I am. I'm not filtering my personality. So what it looks like is just putting your enjoyment first. Because when you do that, when you focus on your enjoyment, you're not conscious of other people and you're not conscious of how they're perceiving you, importantly. So just to give you like a couple of practical tips, what I do is, this is kind of a skill. You need to like get used to just saying whatever's on your mind, like not hesitating. You know, when we overthink, we hesitate and we talk ourselves out of saying things. Me, what I do now, honestly, whenever I just have some like dumb thought on my mind, just some like random thought that comes to me, a random observation, or I just think like, I just get some random thought. Sometimes I just talk out loud. Sometimes I just say it for the sake of saying it, even when it adds nothing to the conversation, or just some stupid joke on my mind. I'll just say it. Like, I'm not looking for a reaction. I'm just like saying what is naturally on my mind. And I feel like I said, it's kind of like the opposite of what we would do in this kind of anxious, protective state. We filter what's on our mind because we think, you know, there's going to be some consequences to saying this dumb thing. In reality, 9 times out of 10, there's not. It's almost like leaning into this like spontaneous, playful, unserious side of yourself. Like, I could say anything right now, but because like it's coming from an authentic place and I'm just trying to have fun, like, what does it matter? Like, it serves a purpose. It's making this conversation like more fun. When you act like this, it creates a more fun vibe for the people around you. Like, I've always found like acting like a little bit, almost like a little bit weird, but in an authentic way, that's like made people want to spend more time around me. Another thing you can do is just be really curious, like ask people lots of questions, but not questions in terms of like politeness. Like, you know, some people kind of just ask questions for the sake of asking, like they don't really want to know the answer. I like to be a bit more playful with my questions. I don't just ask people boring questions like, what do you do? Or, you know, those like questions that we ask out of politeness. I'll ask people like random, really specific questions and shit like that. I'm trying to think of an example. Bro, when I went away on one of my trips, I'm so childish, man. But whenever I meet someone from America, I just ask him about guns. Like, I just ask like, how many guns have you shot in your life? Or have you ever seen someone get shot or something dumb like that? Like, honestly, like, I recognize my sense of humor is like really juvenile, but it's authentic to me. And when I ask a dumb question like that, you can tell I haven't thought about it too much, but that's what makes it natural, you know? Just don't be afraid to like have a joke with people. That's what you do around your friends. You joke, or you're just trying to have as much fun as possible. I can do that with a group of strangers now. Like, once you kind of start leaning into this more playful energy, it feels so fucking good, man. Like, you'll just unlock this momentum. You just feel relaxed and everything is just flowing. And then, final tip on my list is, I think I've kind of covered it already, The only other thing I said was sometimes there are going to be situations where, you know, your jokes don't land. And that's honestly fine, because even though it might be a little bit awkward in the beginning, because this is something that we kind of have to build up over time, this skill of being unfiltered. At the core of it, like, it doesn't matter if no one else laughs, because you're doing it to make yourself laugh. I just say anything out loud that I find funny, like, no matter how juvenile, no matter how kind of cringy it is, because I know, like, if I found it funny, then that's what matters. The people who know me, they're like, they say, like, you just laugh at your own jokes all the time, and I absolutely love that about myself. Like, I have so much fun just chatting random shit in conversations, and like I said, it's one of the things that I think has made people like want to be my friend, because I'm just projecting this authentic energy. I am myself, and I'm not going to change myself for anyone. So even though I'm not always this type of person, there are situations that faze me. Sometimes when I'm talking to people who I can't help but see as like higher social status than me, I'm not always going to act like this. But most of the time, if I can aim for like around like 75%, I am naturally being myself, then that's, you know, that's good in my book. See you in the next one, man.